All right, hello everybody. Good afternoon. This is Chase, your host of Vices and Superfluities. I'm here today with a good buddy of mine, Clint Kelly, out of Austin, Texas. We worked together for a couple of years while I was down there in college, working for moving companies, and that's actually what he's still doing. But today we're going to talk about Clint's transition into becoming a man of the community, and his experience stepping up to his role as a father. I've seen a big change in the person that he used to be and the person that he is now. So I'm glad to have him here. Clint, thanks for joining us. And if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, give us a little bit of your background information and just kind of tell us how you got from where you were to where you are now.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. I'm 29 years old. I'll be 30 in May. I was born on the outskirts of Austin, Texas, towards East Austin, more towards Manor, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I live now, or I moved from Austin, lived in Manor from 8 years old up to graduating high school. And now I'm out in Elgin, where I'm doing my thing now. But yeah, when I guess transition wise, it happened kind of when everything fell apart for me.
Yeah.
I was working in a moving company from a very young age, probably 14 years old is when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I was on and off summers, that sort of thing. And then would do small trade jobs in between: carpentry, plumbing, plant nurseries, horse ranches, that sort of stuff. But just kind of stuck in the moving industry for a while, and got in at a company where I met you, and I helped the owners of that company build for a while and got kind of high up there. And, I was a young dude, got my girlfriend pregnant, and we were going to have a baby. So I was like, oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And at that time I was working like 60 hours minimum a week
Oh yeah.
at that startup. So, which was pretty mandatory to have a baby as the sole income of a household.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went the traditional route from there for about 2 years, where my girlfriend worked a job at the daycare where my daughter was going, basically just to, she'd be making money while our daughter was in daycare anyway,
Right.
and also be able to drop her off, pick her up when all that was happening. And then any money from that went to just, doing extracurriculars with our daughter. And I would, pay all the bills, that sort of stuff. So
Sure.
it's a very traditional household
Yeah.
while that was going on. And with that being said, it was the traditional downfalls of that household where I missed all those kind of early memories with my
Mm-hmm.
daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't the one up with her all the time. I missed a lot of firsts because, as you know, those days were like 12-hour days most of the time.
Yeah, man, it
So
was
I was like
crazy.
sun up, sun down. So I was never home. I'd be lucky to see my daughter get put to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed out on a lot of stuff like that. Um, but I didn't realize that I was missing out on that stuff at the
Right.
time, of course. Young, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of pressures. So then my girlfriend and I split up, just normal things, same downfalls. There's no time for a relationship in that kind of schedule, plus the added fact of being young. And from there, we were split up for about 6-7 months for a while, uh, at which point we lost her in a car accident. And from there is, things kind of really started to fall apart.
Yeah.
She was staying with her mother at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and so my daughter was already used to that household for those 6-7 months that she was there. And I used that as a crutch to kind of say, oh well, that's where she's been, and that's where I think we should keep her for now, so there's not too much change.
Yeah.
And without kind of realizing that, was using that as like um, a guilt-free pass to like just go off the deep end, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what I did. I kind of just went down the rabbit hole of typical like drinking and going out and doing that sort of stuff, and just kind of being absent, kind of, physically, mentally, emotionally, all that stuff. And I did that, man, for the better part of 5 years. And through that, when that happened, I lost the job at that moving company,
Mm-hmm.
where I was set up to kind of take over branch management.
Yep.
um, and then I lost the house, I lost the car. I moved into a barn at my buddy's place and kind of lived there for about a year. I was just
Yeah.
living in this barn out back, which is totally cool. I was about it. I was a dirty little redneck, so I was
Yeah, you were wild, man.
um, but I was just doing. And at that time, I went to work at a horse ranch down the road that I grew up from, and it was $8 an hour, and I didn't mind it. Like, I had money, and at that time it was kind of like work for my soul, and that place helped me
Sure.
out a bunch. uh, I probably made as much there in the 8 months I was there as 1 month at the moving company, so
Yeah.
it definitely was not about the money, but it was same thing, kind of sun up sundown, kept my mind busy. And then at which point I moved out to South Austin, started working back at the moving company I was at before. They gave me another chance at a different branch, but I was on my same BS, so I
Same
lost the
shit.
job there. Uh, and then I got a DWI, somewhere in that span, and I lost my license for 3 years. So through a bunch of this, like the whole time I was in South Austin, I didn't have my license, didn't have a car. And then when I lost that job there in South Austin, I ended up moving back home. Um, and I got a job at a different moving company
Hmm.
where I kind of stepped in to start doing management there. But I
Yeah.
still didn't have my license, so I couldn't,
Oh yeah, I
take on
know.
fully without the
I
license. So,
had to come pick you up for work, man.
so yeah, it was really difficult there because I moved back home. I was with my mom. It kind of felt like just like a huge regression. I mean, all of this, I was in a constant state of regress through all of this.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was kind of moving back home and going to this new company was kind of the start of that step up,
Sure.
because it was kind of like getting back to where I started,
Yeah.
where things started going wrong. um, and I started to make money again. Got my license back, and after that, I was like, I'm so tired of living with my mother. I got to get out of here. I got an apartment. And after I got the apartment, I got a new car, and just kind of really put my hat down and was working to, get my life back. Uh, but at that point, I still was just working towards the material things of getting my life back.
Yeah.
Um, the tangible things that I thought were going to fix me. And once I had all those things, I was still working. I was back at that square one where, yeah, I got all the things, but like I'm still so empty.
Right.
And I'm at this apartment, and my daughter is still with her grandmother. Now I'm seeing her more. I'm still making more of an effort to go over there and see her, every chance I get. So that's good. But I still, if I'm being honest with myself, wasn't pushing 100% to like take back stake in fatherhood.
Yeah.
Um, so that's when I kind of started making a change in my daily attitude. I could tell in my interactions with coworkers, that I wasn't the same even employee that I was
Hmm.
before. Um, and I realized that the moving industry, or that job in particular, because I'd been doing it for so long and I got really good at it, it was kind of what defined me in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
It was one place where I didn't screw up. Like, everyone depended on me. Like, my bosses depend on me, my coworkers. Like, I was running it. I was really good at this thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's where I didn't mess up. So that's where I wanted to spend all my time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I took note of all these things. I started, I put down the TV remote and started like reading books and listening to podcasts and gaining perspective from different points of views, and really getting out of my comfort zone and thinking more into myself about like what's going on, why doesn't this feel right? I've got all the things back,
But
but like
something's
I'm
still
still
missing.
broken. What's
Yeah.
happening? What's gonna fix this? What's my next step? Um, and a buddy of mine, Donald, we had always talked about this um, idea of starting uh, this self-sustainable ranch and or farm or whatever you'd like to call it, commune, even if you want
Mm-hmm.
to go that far, but like a collective idea of like community anyway, based around agriculture and community.
Yeah.
But it was always talked about as this like retirement plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at
Like,
that time, I was starting to get into gardening more and more. Like the balcony of my apartment became like a little garden out there.
yeah.
And I was kind of finding some solace out there and I look at it now, what these things I'm doing here on the farm now do for me is like fostering that fatherhood that I have lost into animal husbandry with the livestock that I have, and then the garden, seeing, kind of new life come from the ground that, I missed out on when my daughter was a child or whenever I was being an absent father. So a lot of it goes into that. And I hopped on social media because, I mean, until about not even a year and a half ago, I had no social media accounts whatsoever.
Yeah.
Uh, and I just didn't participate. I was like, man, people on social media are terrible. I hate that thing.
It can
Uh,
be pretty gross. Yeah.
but then I was looking at just like all the craziness going on in the world. And I was like, man, there's got to be someone out there that's doing better, Um, and I just didn't see it around me. And I was like, what if I use social media to like start being that person, start putting
Mm-hmm.
some positivity out there, because I know how bad I'm hurting, and
Right.
I've got this great family around me that has been like trying to help me and trying to be there for me, and I've been so stubborn to just force myself to go through everything alone.
Yep.
And I start thinking about the people who don't have any family or any support system around them. I was like, man, I can't imagine how they feel. So I started social media for the sole purpose of like being some sort of positive light in everything that's going on, and then to try and reach out to people in a very like passive aggressive way, because I wasn't super confident that I had much to offer anyway, because I'm
Sure.
just an old broken soul myself, so how am I going to guide anybody? um, and then that kind of turned into, I met some people through the fatherhood community and support groups that I was kind of tuning into. They introduced me, they go down the rabbit hole where they introduce you to other people. And then uh, one guy in particular, Angel Santiago, I actually did my very first like IG live with him on Instagram. And that was actually the very first time I dove into kind of this story that I'm telling you now
Yeah.
with anyone ever.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't like talked to my best friend, my mom, my grandmother, my brother, nobody. I never opened up to anyone. And this dude I'd never met before, that I talked to on and off of Instagram, just was like, "Hey, man, I want to put you on the show and like talk to you." Um, and he was like, he had no plan, kind of like you did. You're like, "I'm just gonna let it go. You can get as deep if you want to." And I kind of made the decision where like if I was gonna go on there, it was gonna be all or nothing.
Right.
So
Be
and
vulnerable.
yeah, and that's kind of been kind of my staple, is vulnerability
Yep.
and kind of what that presents to people. Because it's terrifying, right?
Oh, it's scary, man, but it's I've recently been sharing some of my things, and I see a lot of parallels between your story and my story and the situations that we've been in, and just being absent in certain ways, and kind of taking a step back from that and saying, "Well, I don't want to be the father that just works and pays the bills. Like I want to have more of an active role, and I want to be a role model and not just the man of the house, but um, to give my daughter a healthy man to grow up around." Um, and so that's where some of my things kind of center around, and sharing the things that I have has been, it's been very freeing and like liberating. And I've found a sense of strength in that vulnerability. And I definitely think that this world, especially right now, needs that coming from men. They need to see that, you know, we're dealing with these things too. And just because we put on a tough front on the outside, like we're carrying things around, and it's heavy and it can hurt. But by sharing your story, by sharing my story, and I'm going to have some other guys on that want to talk about similar things, um, just to be a little bit of a light to help people cultivate more of a healthy mindset so that they can build better relationships, with their friends and their family and their children. Um, and to just let people know that, like, hey man, like we're all dealing with some of this shit. Like you don't have to go through it alone, and you don't have to be so hard about it. Like toughness has its time and its place, but so does vulnerability, and it's important to have a balance between both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just hate and I've used kind of I guess the word, redefining masculinity,
Right.
because vulnerability and masculinity can be cohesive. And it's
Yeah.
like, you can't, it's not one or the other.
Sure.
It's like you're, it's being confident enough that your vulnerability does not compromise your masculinity.
Absolutely.
And it's like, especially being the father of a daughter, without um, without that woman aspect, without a
Right.
mother around.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm to go through raising her, so scared of like, what's inside of me or my feelings and my heart, and never being vulnerable with her or to anyone else, and being disingenuous with her and myself, how is that ever going to be healthy? And that's going
Right.
to affect her tremendously, and she's going to look for that in other places,
Yep.
uh, and just, yeah, basically everything roots back into, um, the well-being of my daughter.
Yeah.
um, if I, as a parent, say that I truly care about my daughter, that transfers into I care about, um, her mental state, her physical state, her nutritional state, the state of the society she's going to grow up in, the environment that she's going to grow up in, with people and nature. Um, and if I am to say I truly care about her as a father and her future, that means I need to be trying to make a difference in not only the person that she is, um, the environment she grows up in, the world around her. Like, I have to be trying to make a difference as much as possible in
Right.
all of those things.
Yep.
If I say that I'm 100% committed to being, the best father I can be. And that's where this is all born out of. It's just, there's nothing more important than that. Like, I don't, like,
Yeah,
if,
man.
if we
It's
have, if we are complaining about all these things in society, whether it's, politics, religion, race, whatever it is, the answer is quite literally our children. If we raise better humans, better people, then we can stop all of the crap. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
it's in us. We have to be better parents. Like, we're the answer. Stop
Mm-hmm.
yelling at other people who are far too high up in a chair to ever hear us. We have to talk to each other, be better people to one another,
Yeah.
so that we can make a difference directly in our community. Like, we have to hold ourselves responsible. It's no one else's fault for the actions we take. Um, I definitely believe in equal opportunity, but also in extreme ownership of
Yes.
one's decisions. So
Yep.
those two go hand in hand. Like, you should expect to be treated fairly, but you should also have the expectation that you're going to hold up your end of the bargain. And
Hmm.
that's just how it works. And that's how community is successful.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's hard. Some people are going to put in more work than others because some people are more capable than others, and that's fine. And that's, you can dive off into the barter system type of community based off that ideal. But um, yeah, that's kind of how I come out of trying to make my community a better place. Like, I can yell about saving the world, which is great, and I would love to do that. Um, but I'm only, the one person sort of thing. But I don't throw my hat in when I say that. I,
Right.
I take my hat and go, well, I'm one person. What can I do?
Yeah.
The people I know around me, I'm going to go ahead and start making a difference with those people around
Yep.
me. I'll be. You're going to take a lot of losses having that mentality, having wearing your heart on your sleeve and going out on a limb to try and help people. You're going to lose more often, but you will also go down being 100% authentic.
Yep.
Um, and leading by example with your children in that state as well. And it's just worth it to me. Same thing why I've always loved manual labor. At the end of the day, I did an honest day's work, and I'm satisfied with myself. And that's how I feel when I uh, think back on my interactions with people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, man.
Um,
You're
they may not be great all the time, but I'm able to recognize that, course correct, and apologize for that. I'm cognizant of my actions. It doesn't
sure.
mean that I'm perfect all the time. It just means I go, hey, I realized I was being kind of a dick earlier. I'm really sorry about that. I was being kind of selfish. And I course correct, and that's what counts.
Yep. Yep. No, man, you're hitting the nail right on the head. I mean, everything that you're talking about is like 100% to the T what I've been experiencing lately. Being authentic with people and I've been working as a handyman for the past couple of years, just doing small, simple labor jobs around people's houses, and that's really it's helped me be a better person and help me find my kind of sense of center, and a way for me to be happy. And it keeps me honest. I have to do the right thing because if I don't, then I'm gonna get that review on my page that says I didn't do the right thing.
Yeah,
And that's not why I do the right thing though. Like I just do it as, like you said, man. Like I want to. They call it tending to the part of the garden that you can touch. So like you said, man, I can't save the world, but working for one person at a time, like I can make their day a little bit better, and then from that, maybe they'll go off and do something for somebody else that'll make their day a little bit better. It's
exactly.
all about that ripple effect. So we just got to throw the pebble in the pond and then kind of watch it spread. And it's been a good experience for me. I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about life. And like you said, you do take losses doing that because just because you're a good person doesn't mean that everybody else is. And some people want to take advantage of that. So that can be a little bit difficult, and it's frustrating whenever that happens. But we have to put our faith in something greater that it's not about what that person does with the thing that I did for them, but it's just about that I did something for them, and
Mhm.
I kind of put it on their plate to do what they will with it. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And like, to build off what you were talking about, when you say, when you help one person, it's not about what you did, directly for that one person. It may not have been, that one action may not have been extremely helpful, but your action towards them helped them save resources that they could then put into something else,
Right.
which would be helpful to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of trickles down.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually am going upon that today. Um, there's a small farm around the corner where the main person who runs it is, she's an older woman. She's not old, but she's like 45, I believe, 46. Um, but she's got a lean-to that she needs built that's
Right.
16 feet in the air. Um, and she has, she doesn't have anyone to build it.
Yeah.
So what is she gonna do? Have a contractor come out and build it? And I was like, hey, I actually like love carpentry. I have air compressors, nail guns. I do a lot of that work. I build all my own structures.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that for you. Um, and all the wood I get is all repurposed wood, so it's all free. So
Mm-hmm.
you talk about 16-foot pieces of lumber, because it's 16 feet by 10 feet. Lumber like that plus 10 sheeting for the top, you're talking a few $100s.
Yeah.
So now I can save her the few $100s in materials, and a few $100 in whoever she would pay to do it. That could go into um, her project she's working on to have a farm stand that is a take what you need, pay what you can farm stand for her community.
That's
Now
great.
she's got more resources to put into that farm stand,
Right.
and that's going to trickle into providing sustenance for a family. And so maybe my one thing that's going to take me, I don't know, half a day, and not much work, something I enjoy, is going to provide, not directly but subsequently, a family food. And so
Exactly.
it's like those little things, and just, I mean, those are huge payoffs for me. I love doing that stuff. And I found the community that is in this small scale farming or homestead, or whatever you would like to label it as,
Right.
community is, there's a lot of that going on. And that has been immeasurable for me, really. Not only on a like finding like-minded people and building community, but having an outlet, because you can want to do good a lot of times and you have great intentions. You just don't have any way to put that out, or maybe you aren't used to people accepting the kind of love you would like to show, so you don't know what that looks like on the other end. And you try to put it out once or twice maybe, and it's not well received with the people because the people only see you in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so you go, oh well, just people don't like this, so you never
Right.
try to put it out.
Right.
And that's another thing that like social media has done for me, is like I found people that are willing to not look at me through the lens of who I used to be.
Yeah.
They're
Sure.
accepting the person I'm trying to be, which is, I mean, that's incredible. Like if we could, like, there's still people out there think less of you because they were an upperclassman in high school.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, come on, dude, you got to let go of those people's judgments.
Yeah, man.
And it's like there's so many people out there that like either want to love or be loved. Not in a relationship sort of definition, but just as a person. And that's largely me. Like I've got, you know, for 5 years, like I was saying, for 5 years, I was in this hole, and just, whether it was anger or whether it was resentment or just sadness, I was like, I had nowhere for my emotions to go, because I
Yeah.
wasn't talking to anybody. I was like, I'm a man, I don't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I
I
thought I got to be
feel, brother.
strong for my family, got to be strong for my daughter. And like, I got all this love, man. Like, I was in love with this woman. Like, whenever she passed, like, we were in the midst of like trying to work things out. Like, I knew
Yeah.
I wanted to marry her, but I wanted to, when we got back together, like, here's the ring. I just wanted to be sure, because it was something I was going to do one time. So now I've got all this love for a person that I wanted, a lifetime of love. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this person. It's got nowhere to go. Like I've got my daughter. Yeah. I mean, I shower her with love, but it's like, I just want to give it to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically what I'm letting out is like the side of me that she saw that I never let anyone else see.
Sure.
Cause I was just always scared. I grew up in a place or like an environment where, um, it was soft to be emotional, or it was
Yeah.
not like environment in terms of like my family household, but small town BS.
Just, yeah, the
Just a bunch of
society and the
rednecks.
culture, men are supposed to be tough and men are
Yeah,
supposed to hold in their emotions, and men don't cry in front of their women. Like that is that's one thing that I've had to learn how to do is, like I I'm the sole provider of my house, so I had to take care of Anna and our daughter Fallon, and that can be really tough, and it made me, and not so much since we had Fallon, but especially whenever I was younger and me and Anna were in a relationship, I had a lot of insecurities about myself because I wasn't like what I thought a man should be, I guess, or I had these emotions inside of me that I was like, man, I'm supposed to feel this way. And it just like, I suppressed it, and it came out as it expressed itself and through my anger. And all that was deep seated sadness that I wasn't dealing with. But whenever I started to deal with that, I really started to make some improvements. And whenever we had Fallon, it started like it kind of reared its head back up a little bit because Anna wanted to stay home and take care of the baby, which like now I'm grateful for. But whenever she first made that decision, I was like, well, fuck, like I don't make enough money, dude. Like I can't. And so that kind of brought up some of those insecurities again. Um, but I found a way to make it work, and that's what I mean. That's part of what being a man is about, is making it work, but also being honest with yourself and being honest with your family about like what you're feeling in the position that you feel like you're in. And that's really helped everything kind of, we've been able to smooth everything out and get everything in line. Like we just bought a house last January, so everything is falling in place the way that it should be for us, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, man, it took a lot of work in here. I mean, there was 2 years ago, whenever Fallon was just a few months old, was whenever Anna, like originally we had said that Anna would stay home for the first few months and then go back to work. And she worked for on the weekends for a little bit. Um, but she was working for my mom, and they kind of butted heads on some things, and so that didn't work out. Uh, and then I just wasn't making enough money, and I was like, "Hey, man, like I need you to go back to work. Like I need help." And she was like, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving the kid."
Yeah.
And that kind of pissed me off for a little bit. But then I was like, "Fuck it, man! Like I've got a great girl, and she wants to be there and be home with the kid every day, and like all I can do is appreciate and respect that." So I had to really buckle down, and I started picking up some work on the side. And I mean, dude, I was working my ass off. Like there's a period in time where I think it was like from February to mid March, I worked every day. Like I didn't have a single day without something on the schedule. I mean, it was like 45 days in a row. Because that's just what I had to do to keep everything afloat. And then I found another app where I could like set my own prices for things. And at that time, I was working a night shift for like a commercial electrical contractor as an apprentice. And during the night shift, I made like $20 an hour. And then, but I would go from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and work a couple of jobs on my own to make a few $100, and then go in for my night shift from 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. and do a 10-hour night shift after that. I would get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and just fucking do that. I did that for a month straight and just ran my dick in the dirt. Um, and finally I sat down and I was like, look, man, like, all right, the first time I made like 2 grand in a week. I made like $800 on the side, or no, I made $1,200 on the side, and then like $800 for my 40 hours on the night shift. And I was like, this is stupid. This isn't adding up, man. Like I could quit this. I could quit this night job and go pick up 3 extra jobs and still maintain that. So that's what I did, and I'm glad that I did it. But it took being honest with myself to do it. It took being honest with Anna to do it, because after we got back up here to Dallas, after I graduated, I wanted to go and work and do something with my degree. So I'd go work these little office jobs and sales jobs and shit. And dude, I just hated it, man. I couldn't do it. And I go work a job for like 2, 3 months and then quit. So I literally had like 10 or 12 jobs in the first 2 years we got back up here. So whenever I came back to Anna again, and I was like, hey man, like, I think I'm going to quit this job. And she was like, really? Like another one? And I was like, well, I mean, I've got this other thing going on the side, so I've just got to have a little bit of faith in it and kind of hope that it takes over. And it did. So it's been great since then. But man, it was tough, and it caused a lot of strong emotions that needed to be worked through. And I'm still working through some of it. It's still difficult, and it can be a little frustrating sometimes, especially being the sole provider of a house. Man, like everything rides on my shoulder. Not everything. Anna does. Anna works her ass off at the house too. Um,
Yeah.
but
No,
it,
I know what you mean.
it's trying, man. It's trying.
Yeah, and it's a weird dynamic too, because you go where it's like you work really hard, and all these hours go, and you get upset because you're always gone from the house,
Yeah.
and then you have all that pent up because you're out working, so you've got to save face with the customer, so you can't let the emotions out there. Then you
Mm-hmm.
get home, and this is like your safe place, to be honest, with your family and stuff, and you start to let those emotions out. But it's been so long of a day that you let them out in the wrong way, or one little thing happens. You're like, well, I've been working all this time. Like, what are you doing? And then you realize you're being irrational. So then you're mad at yourself because you know you were in the wrong. And
Yeah.
then now you've like ruined the night. And so it compounds itself.
Oh yeah.
And that's where it comes like, that's where it got me to try and go for what I'm doing now, is because like, at least it's really good that you're working for yourself. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, man.
That makes a huge difference,
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
because you're working towards something that's a little more sustainable, like on your mental in your household, versus like being at a job where you're working for somebody. It's like, but there's only so far I can go. I'm giving all my time to someone.
Yeah.
So what's really going on here? And so I rolled through the thought process of, I went to a fatherhood convention. It's this one right here, actually. It's called
Dad
Dad
2.0.
2.0 Summit, and I was invited by the guy I did the live chat with, and I never like I went alone. It was in DC, and there was like three people that I talked to regularly on social that I was going to be meeting there. It was like, all right, at least I know these three guys. But I get there and it's hundreds of people. And I'm like, man, I've never traveled anywhere by myself. I've never been to a conference. I don't know like what's supposed to happen here. Like, it's in DC at this ritzy hotel. I'm like some little ragged out dude from Texas. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm like, fuck, I'm just gonna be me, man. That's why I'm here. And I just kind of put it out there. Um, I met up with those dudes, but then, after like the first day, just going around, everyone is super engaging. Like, everyone's there for fatherhood. Like, there's no ulterior motives. Um, it's based around like how to like it's for fatherhood, but also it's advocating for fatherhood on the side of like building a business off of it as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of social media like undertones to it,
Right.
tech undertones to it. But anyway, there wasn't like you weren't worried. Like, everyone was there for the same reason. So like I could go up and talk to anybody, and I just never been in a place where so many strangers and felt so comfortable.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
um, like just talk to a lot of like really amazing people. Everyone is like super vulnerable. No one's got that like, oh, I'm a big tough guy sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
Like, we all got kids. We're not gangsters out here. We're just a bunch of dads.
Yeah,
Like,
no
no
need to
one's trying to
front.
bullshit anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
it was I left with that thing, and I was like, man, these people are out here just loving life as a father. Like, a lot of them are like stay-at-home dads, and like that is the opposite of like what I've grown up knowing. And I was like, man, these dudes are just super passionate about fucking raising kids. I was like, this is awesome. Like, these dudes
That's
are
cool.
super cool. Um, and like right before I went to that conference, I had a meeting with my boss, and we were talking through. Uh, I had started doing the farming thing like I knew that I wanted to get more into agriculture. So I started putting production at my mother's place, doing gardening there, and getting chickens and stuff like that. Um, and then I had a meeting with my boss, and then we talked about, I was going to the conference and everything, and I was talking about the farming, and she's like, oh man, she's like, those two kind of sound like they go together. And I was like, yeah, they do.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
kind
I went home and I was like doing my morning like mobility stretches and stuff, uh, which I'll hop on that later because that has been like a game changer for me.
of. All right.
Uh, but I sat down and I was like, why am I wasting time? Like I know that like this like farming thing has been like my like little dream thing that I've been wanting to do, like retirement plan. And like I desperately want to reconnect with my daughter and this fatherhood advocacy and thinking about like reaching out to fathers who are in that hole that I've been in, that need a hand up. And I was like, those two could really go together.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
started to think about the farm as more of a place to invite people to come and like reconnect with their children. Um, and then that whole thing just, and that moment there, I turned on my camera just like I have it now on a tripod, and I was like, this is what I'm doing with my life. I was like, I'm starting tomorrow. Or like, I'm starting today, I was like, from
Tomorrow
now
never
on,
comes.
like, no more TV, like, no more BS. Like, if I'm on YouTube, it's to some sort of informative content.
Hmm.
If I'm on TV, it's a documentary. If I'm listening to music, no, it's audiobook or it's podcast. And I was like, you don't get anything unless it is towards the goal.
Yeah.
And I did that for like a year straight. Like no TV. The only TV I watched was like Brooke wanted to watch something, some Disney or something like that. I was like, I'm not gonna rob her of that.
Sure.
But yeah, if it was just me, it was 100% what I needed to be focused on. And like I just have that kind of personality where it's like if I get stuck on something, it's like I need to know the exact science behind it, and I just dive into it. Um, and luckily for me and my running mind, like agriculture never stops. Like gardening never stops. Like there's so much to know, so I'll never figure that out ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so now like the goal is building this farm, and I'm looking for land, and that's going to scale up. But the idea behind the farm is um, get it to where it's based on organics, but past that, not just a sustainable model, but a regenerative model,
Regenerative farming. Yeah.
where
Like Joel Salatin and stuff.
yeah, very much like that. He's got a lot of great stuff. I think he goes a little too deep on some things, but but there a lot of things do go hand in hand with that. Um, but then also using this as like an agritourism, agritherapy type retreat,
Okay,
where
cool.
this is a working farm, but we also use it as a site where, let's say, a father that is a part or any father or any family in general, it doesn't have to be fathers only, but um, like I run a fatherhood advocacy group right now, and let's say I have one of those guys and they're like, hey man, I'm having trouble with my kid. It's like, think we can come out to the farm? And I go, dude, come out for 3 days. We've got a cabin out here. um, and he's like, here's the gist of it, man. We have like a list of things you can or cannot do. Like I wake up at 5 a.m. I do my morning mobility yoga, and I just roll through like thought processes, like what I'm going to do for that day, like what I'm grateful for from the day before, or and then we wake up and we do like morning chores around the farm, and then we have breakfast, and it's farm to table breakfast, like everything's right there from the garden. And like you can, when you come along with us through like morning chores, you can pick your produce that you're going to eat for breakfast that morning. And then we can have like You go out and we can teach you like gardening stuff, or we can teach you animal husbandry, or we can go out and teach you fishing, gun safety. My buddy Donald, he's like on the path to become like some professional rock climber. So we want to build a rock wall and teach rock climbing. And then like we have a gym. I have my own gym set up, and like he's like, we're gonna have a workout at noon. You can come to that if you want to. And then I'm working on getting my youth nutrition and youth yoga certification, so I
Okay.
can offer these to families.
That's cool.
Um, and then do like after the workout, we're gonna have another farm to table lunch, and like everything is here on site. And then we can go out and do, you know, whatever activities. Like my daughter and nieces are into obstacle courses, and I'm building them like an obstacle course right now. And like we can have that, you know, you can go do that, or y'all can just wander and play and like do whatever. And we just have different classes based around like farming and the environment, and teach you like why we do what we do and how it helps the environment. And not only in the environment, but also our community, like our community efforts, like how you can help the community through doing these things. um, you know, not necessarily even you have to do these things, but here's why you should support these models versus these other models. um, and then, you know, towards evenings we're like, hey, we can have the kids over here, they're going to do these things, and then we're going to have a men's group where you can come in, you can talk if you want to, or you can listen. And very much like a kind of like a they would have at churches where they have men's group.
Yeah.
But I have no intentions of involving religion in any way,
Sure.
um, just because that closes off a lot of people.
Yeah, it does.
I want to have like an open arm to everybody. You know, no
Mm-hmm.
matter your belief system or what you're going through, I want to reach out to you. It doesn't matter to me. Those two don't have. Anyway, yeah, I just don't want there to be any blockers when it comes to that. So yeah, very much like I want to intend to have like sobriety weekends where that's what we're going to focus on is sobriety, or like um, substance abuse. And then
Yeah.
this weekend we're just going to like whatever, you know, we can have themed weekends, but yeah, is like an agri-therapy sort of place to come to the farm. That's what I'm
Man,
building right now.
I don't want to interrupt you or anything, but I gotta say, I feel like you're like in my head right now because this is exactly what I've been thinking about something that I want to do.
Yeah, dude.
And I had a vision for it 5 years ago. Um, I mean, I was in a rough spot. I was angry and just pissed off at the world and yelling at everybody. And I mean, dude, you were there, you worked with me. Like, I
Yeah.
sucked. I sucked. I had a shitty mindset. Um, and in college, I mean, I did my fair bit of experimenting with some psychedelics, and there was one specific LSD experience that really, I mean, it didn't change my life right away, but it showed me the things that I was doing wrong, why I was doing them wrong, the traumas that came from my childhood that I was holding on and repressing that made me so angry. And then I mean, it went beyond that, and it went beyond showing me my past and my present, and it started getting into future stuff. And it's like, yeah, dude, I had like some kind of retreat center. And I mean, it's exactly what you're talking about, having men's retreats and um, a space where you can come back and just get away from the world and connect with nature and everything that's pure. Um, and, you know, bring your kids out, reconnect with your kids, like
Yeah.
helping people with substance abuse. So it's crazy that this is what you're doing, because this is, I mean, that is literally the exact vision that I had 5 years ago. And I can see how things in my life right now are lining up to that. Um, so it's crazy, but I know like one day here over the next couple of years, and I don't want to like try to call shots or anything, but I think 28 is going to be a big year for me. Um, and I think that'll be the year that I start getting those things in place to have the land to do something like that, and to start building the, you know, the facilities for it, and putting things in place to have something like that, and um, have a place for solitude, and have a place for people to come and heal at. Um, and we went right shortly after I had that experience. We went through a seminar up here called The Road, which is kind of a personal development thing, and they break it up over the course of it's drawn out over several months. You go one weekend, and then there's like a month and a half. You'll go another weekend, and then another couple months, and you go another weekend. And something about that place, I feel like, is going to be very important to what I want to do. So they're not holding the seminars right now, but whenever they open them back up after all this COVID stuff, I'm gonna go back and be a trainer there, and like learn the things that I need to know, how to do in order to help people work through their trauma and their emotions, and to dig out the things that have been repressed. And I mean, there's certain questions to ask, and methods of communication that they use that are it speaks to the mind in a deeper way. So it's cool, man. We'll have to talk about that some more, because I'd like to work with you on it. I think that'd be pretty dope. But we're gonna have to start wrapping it up here shortly, because I've got to go to we go and do a Sunday dinner with my in-laws.
Yeah.
So we're gonna head out there here in a little bit. But I just got one more quick question from you, or for you. Which one? Okay, so I want to let's see. What are some vices you've dealt with, and how did you deal with them? And what are some daily habits that you use to maintain a healthy mindset? Like you said you're doing morning yoga and things like that. So let's kind of air that out a little bit.
Yeah. Um, like I said, I mean, alcohol was my biggest vice for sure.
Yeah,
I wasn't too into drugs. My body didn't handle those well.
sure.
My body loved alcohol, and I was good at that. So
Booze
that's
hound
what I
boy.
did. Uh,
I remember.
so yeah, and so I got, of course, got out of that. I mean, I got a handle on that, or so I thought. And but it was still like I wasn't doing it all the time. But when I did do it, like maybe once a month, it was still that, like, all right, 0 to 100. It was like if I was somewhere, I was drinking until I couldn't. So whether I was drinking until we left, or I was drinking until I blacked out. So that was just how I was drinking. It wasn't like have a couple beers. All right, guys. It's just not how it worked.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I didn't realize that till I went to a substance abuse panel at the conference, and it was just they were talking. The guy holding the panel was actually didn't think I had a problem. He's like, then I just was like, I'm gonna go sober for a year, um, to see like if I actually like the things I'm doing, or if I like hanging out with the people I'm hanging out with, or is it just because we both drink? Or like, do I enjoy going to these places, or is it just because I'm drinking when I go there?
Yeah.
Um, am I actually this way, or is it just I act this way because I drink? And I was like, man, that's super cool. And I actually went to the panel because I was trying to reach out to a personal friend of mine, who just he's a dad, and he's just going off the deep end. And I was like, he's not going to respond well if I just approach him directly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I took away from that, and I was like, man, the only thing I can do is like lead by example. And like back in March 15th, I like made a video, put it out on social, and like made sure that he saw it. Um, but I just basically said I'm gonna take a vow, like 100% sobriety for the rest of 2020. I invite anyone to join me if you feel that it's something you would improve from. And I talked about all the things I just did. And I was like, I'll be your personal support. You can reach out to me anytime you want. I'll do like check-ins every now and then. I'll tell you how I'm doing, see how you're doing. And only a few people, kind of tagged along for a little while. Some people lasted longer than others. Uh, the initial person I was trying to reach didn't respond at all, which is fine. And I'm actually going to go till March of next year because I want to do a full year of sobriety.
Right.
Um,
Cool.
but I found that, yeah, I did still have a problem. Like I was able to recognize that, yeah, when I did drink, even though it was seldom, it was too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like my thought processes are different, and like just how I view things is a lot different through sobriety. And it's just been really cool to look at. And I'm not saying that I'll stay 100% sober forever, but I don't ever want to go back to making it a habit. Like,
Right.
because I really like to taste the beer, whiskey, stuff like that. So I might have a drink every now and then just for taste, but I think that I don't know that I'll ever go back to like socially drinking. I don't have any desire to do that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong
Plus,
with that,
it's
man.
another one of those things where it's like, I want to be on this earth as long as possible, to be with my daughter as long as possible, and alcohol just doesn't help with that.
Yep.
So, um, yeah, and other vices would be like nutritional as well. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
tossed all that out the door. Like, starting next year, actually, I'm gonna do a challenge, not challenge, but like I'm gonna challenge myself and see if I can go the first 3 months until March 15th, which is a year of sobriety, uh, doing 100% of my intake uh, within a 25-mile radius of my house.
Okay, cool.
So any food I consume, any water has to be from a well within 25 miles. I mean, absolutely everything I consume within 25 miles of where I live. And I've sourced pretty much everything I need. So that'll be interesting. Um, and then, yeah, my morning, it's not exactly yoga. It's basically things that I've mashed together that help me out for, problems that I've had with my body. Um, I have a narrow spinal column and regenerative disc in my back, and I have sciatica pains.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of mitigating stretches for sciatica, and then I do just lower back stuff to help kind of stretch those out and mitigate compaction. And then a lot of hip opener stuff,
All right.
just with through because doing lifting and then moving and stuff like that, your hips just get real twisted up real bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do a lot of hip opener stuff, and then I work on a lot of rotator cuff stuff because my rotator cuffs are destroyed from 15 years of moving.
Oh yeah.
I will
People do.
100% need surgery, but I won't get that done until I'm done moving because I don't want to mess it up again.
Yeah, it'll happen again,
So,
man. That's a tough
so
job.
yeah, it's I get up. It's not always at 5, but I get up and make sure that I get those stretches in because it helps me just function better. It's the same thing as like if you get up and do a workout or run or something in the morning, you're just more awake. The blood's flowing. Your mental is better. You're thinking clearer. You're not in that hazy fog like driving to work. Like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and so that has been like, and I'm doing more now, like thinking into like, okay, let me also use this time to go, what am I doing today? Like, what is my goal for the day? Am I, what do I need to get done on the property? Or should I like, hey, I've been like hard at work on the farm for like 3 days. I need to focus on Brooke today. I need to focus on my daughter. Like, I need to make sure that she isn't feeling neglected. I need to make sure that, hey, maybe I'm a little more involved with the school today because I want her to like, I want to keep my presence up in the class because I'm very involved with her school as well. So, and she takes pride in that. Like all the kids know me and stuff. So that's another mental thing for her. So I try to be very aware of like where my time is going, and then like thinking back on like what about yesterday? Like, was I successful in my opinion? Not like successful, but am I satisfied with how I carried through my actions yesterday?
Sure.
So that time has really helped a lot. There's not a whole lot of that time, um, but it's the only time where like, all right, the animals don't need me right now.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter doesn't need me right now. She's asleep. So that's the only time that's like truly mine.
Yeah.
So it's really beneficial, and it's something that I look forward to whenever, um, I am full time on the farm because I'm going to make it a point to have more of that time, like not just in the morning, but like maybe evening too, to really be able to slow down. But right now, I'm very much in the building infrastructure everywhere, so I'm like sun up to sundown, past sundown. So, um, there's not a lot of like relaxed time for that.
Sure. All right, man. Let's go ahead and close this thing out. If you want to tell everybody where they can find you on Facebook or about your fatherhood advocacy group, where can we find that? Because I want to be a part of that. So send me a link for that. And yeah, well, let's go ahead and close it out, man. Well, I just want to say really quick that I'm very proud of the improvements that you made. I'm glad to call you a friend, man. It's been cool to watch your progress from Clint at the bar to Clint with his daughter. It's been a beautiful change, man, and I really enjoy seeing your posts. So thanks for doing it, brother.
Thanks, dude. I've enjoyed the journey. I regret none of it, dude. It's made me exactly who I am. So it's gonna make me a better father in the future. But yeah, so right now, I'm actually in the process of rebranding and launching the website and everything like that. But right now, I'm pretty much just on Instagram. It's Brooke V Daddy V Life, and that is BROOKE V DADDY VLIFE. So Brooke V Daddy V Life. But depending on when you air this or it's heard, it will be Fatherhood Farms, and that will be on Instagram, Facebook, the website, everything like that. Website's not live right now. That'll be first of the year, so January 2021. So yeah, it's in the works.
All right, cool, man. I gotta get rolling, but I'm gonna have to call you back here pretty soon, and we'll chat about some more things because I really like what you're doing, and I want to be a part of it any way I can, help you grow it, brother. So good seeing you, man.
I got about 12 hours of this in me, so hey, take care, man. Have a good Sunday.
Yeah, you too, man. I appreciate it.